Jonathan, my biological father, was a businessman known for his strictness and coldness. After years of absence, he decided to claim parental rights at the most inappropriate time. This news shocked Lindsay, crushing her with both anger and despair. I overheard her talking to Dr. Peter at the hospital, her voice shaking with fury and frustration. She couldn't understand how he could do this after years of silence and neglect, just when we were about to start our life together. As I listened to Lindsay's words, I felt torn between confusion about this father figure I'd never known and the pain of seeing my dream of a family threatened. I approached Lindsay, asking why he wanted to interfere with my happiness. I told her he didn't even know me, had never even called to check on me or my mother. My words were a mix of sadness and disbelief. Despite being devastated, Lindsay refused to give up. She was determined to fight for her right to adopt me and sought legal advice. She promised me that she wouldn't let him tear us apart, that we'd become a family and be very happy. She said it didn't matter what the papers said, we'd fight together. The legal battle that followed was tough and exhausting. I remember how Jonathan proved to be a formidable opponent, using his influence and resources to complicate the process and claim custody of me. The hospital community, who deeply loved Lindsay and me, watched the unfolding events with concern. Dr. Peter and his colleagues openly expressed their dissatisfaction with Jonathan's intervention. I overheard Dr. Peter telling Lindsay that it was unfair, that Jonathan didn't deserve to be called a father, and that he seemed like an extremely opportunistic and malicious person. Despite the unconditional support from Lindsay and everyone around me, I couldn't help feeling like a pawn in a power game I didn't want to be part of. Every night, I'd look up at the stars and ask why he wouldn't let me be happy with someone who truly cared for me as a daughter, someone who would give me the love he never did. I searched for answers that felt as distant as the night sky. Lindsay, while preparing for another legal battle, reinforced her promise to me. She told me that no matter what happened, she would always be my mother, and we'd get through this together. Her determined voice was a beacon of hope for me. Despite all the adversity, the love we shared remained unshakable. In the courthouse waiting room before the final hearing, Lindsay confronted Jonathan, trying to understand his true intentions. She asked him why now, why he was claiming custody after so many years, and what he really wanted from me. Jonathan, arrogant and unaware that Lindsay was secretly recording the conversation, answered dismissively. He bluntly stated that I was more useful to him as a source of income than as a daughter. He asked if she knew how much the government pays for disabled children, calling it an investment. Lindsay felt her blood boil with anger, but she remained calm, knowing every word Jonathan said would be evidence. She asked if he was only interested in the money I could bring, not my happiness. Jonathan confirmed without remorse that I meant nothing to him, that he'd never even met me. He told her that's how the real world works, it's all about what you can get. In court, Lindsay's lawyer presented the recording as evidence, letting everyone hear Jonathan's callous words. The judge listened carefully, her expression growing increasingly stern. After the recording played, Jonathan tried to defend himself, claiming his words were taken out of context. He argued that as my biological father, he had rights, and that I should be with him, not with a stranger from the hospital. After consideration, the judge addressed Jonathan in a firm voice. She said his own words revealed his true intentions, and that the court couldn't, in good conscience, grant custody to someone whose only interest was financial. Turning to Lindsay and me, the judge continued. She said the devotion and love Lindsay had shown was exactly what I needed. She granted custody to Lindsay and approved the formal adoption. I squeezed Lindsay's hand, unable to hold back my tears. I told her she had fought for me and never given up. I was so happy everything had worked out, and it was all because of her. Lindsay hugged me tightly and whispered that we'd do it all over again. She said I was worth every fight, that I was a child full of dreams with the determination to achieve them. Now she could be by my side to help with all of that. She suggested we start our new life right away and go directly to our home, not her home, but our home. As we left the courthouse, Lindsay looked back at Jonathan one last time. I could see that her heart no longer held anger, only relief and a promise of a better future for me. I remember the morning after the court decision like it was yesterday. The kitchen was warm with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, a scent that always reminds me of new beginnings. As I focused on adjusting my training equipment, I heard Lindsay's contemplative voice. She told me that watching my daily dedication made her think about the true meaning of strength. She said it wasn't just about surpassing physical limits, but also about the determination to keep moving forward despite disabilities. She saw that in me every day, and it moved her. I paused my work and looked at her, feeling a smile slowly form on my lips. I confessed that I never thought I'd come this far. But every time I felt like giving up, I remembered everything we'd overcome together. I told her that she believed in me more than I believed in myself, and sometimes that gave me the strength not just to dream, but to fight for those dreams. I shared my desire to become a Paralympic athlete, not just for myself, but to show everyone that challenges are meant to be overcome. Later, in our backyard turn training space, I approached Lindsay, breathless but satisfied after an intense workout. I asked her if she'd noticed how I felt stronger and more capable every day. I marveled at how not long ago, I could barely imagine my future, but now I had goals and dreams. With emotion in my voice, I told her it was all thanks to her. She had changed my life, given me a home, a family, and now a future. I wondered aloud how I could ever thank her for all of this. Lindsay's eyes were filled with emotion as she responded. She told me I had changed her life just as much, giving her purpose and a joy she didn't know she was missing. She said there was no need for thanks, we were in this together. She assured me that watching me chase my dreams and overcome new challenges was the greatest gift for her. That night, as we planned the next steps, I shared my anxieties and hopes with Lindsay. I admitted to feeling nervous sometimes, wondering if I could really accomplish everything, the Paralympic qualifiers, competing internationally. But I told her that when I looked at her and remembered all we'd overcome, I felt a strength I didn't know I had. I asked if she thought I was ready for the next step. Lindsay took my hands in hers and spoke with certainty. She said she had no doubts, I was ready. She reminded me that I had the talent, the determination, and a heart that knew no limits. We would face this together, step by step. She assured me there was nothing I couldn't achieve, and reminded me that the most important part wasn't the finish line, but the journey to get there. And what an incredible journey it had been so far. I remember that intense afternoon of training in our backyard, which we transformed into an adaptive training center. Lindsay and I were reviewing specific techniques for wheelchair racing, the sport I'd chosen. I was determined to become faster and more skilled, pushing myself with an iron will. After a particularly exhausting series of movements, I caught my breath and called out to Lindsay. I told her that I used to think of my wheelchair as something negative, but that day I felt a connection with it. It was as if, for a moment, it had become a part of my body. I felt there was still room for improvement, that I could go even further. I asked her if she thought I was doing anything wrong. Lindsay, who had been studying Paralympic athletes' videos with me, took a moment to gather her thoughts before answering. She told me my technique had improved incredibly, but reminded me of what we'd seen in the World Champions videos. She emphasized the importance of posture and the moment of release, saying I needed to imagine channeling all my energy into the wheelchair. She compared it to the wheelchair carrying my dreams around the world. Inspired by Lindsay's words, I adjusted my posture and focused even more intently on the race. I agreed with her, saying I wanted each race to tell a story of how I refused to be defined by my limitations. I wanted people to see me on the track and think of infinite possibilities, not barriers. With each training session, I became more skilled and confident. My dedication caught the attention of the local community, and soon I was invited to small competitions. At my first local competition, I was nervous, but drawing strength from Lindsay's presence beside me. Seeing the gathering crowd, I asked Lindsay what would happen if I didn't reach my target time. Lindsay squeezed my hand reassuringly and told me that today wasn't just about records or distances. It was about showing the world my light. She said she was already proud of me, regardless of the result. She reminded me that what really mattered was the heart I put into each race. Encouraged by Lindsay, I competed with a passion that captivated the entire audience. Although I didn't win, my indomitable spirit and impressive technique drew attention. The applause I received at the end was not just for the distance I achieved, but for the inspiration I embodied. After the competition, as we were preparing to go home, I reflected on my journey. I told Lindsay I understood something important that day, that winning medals wasn't everything. What mattered was touching hearts, inspiring change, and showing that with passion and perseverance, any expectation could be surpassed. I acknowledged that I couldn't have come this far without her. Lindsay hugged me with tears in her eyes. She said that it was because of me that she had found her true purpose in life. Together, we had already gone further than any competition could offer. We were already winners. That first competition was just the beginning for me. With each new event I participated in, I not only improved technically but also became a symbol of determination and hope. My reputation grew, and more people began to know my story. It wasn't about the victories, but about the passion and message I conveyed in each race. Years passed since I started competing in Paralympic sports. Now an adult, I had become not just a famous athlete, but an icon of inspiration. Lindsay, though aging, remained by my side, supporting me every step of the way, through every competition and every victory. On a sunny afternoon after another victory at an international event, I found myself surrounded by fans and reporters. Everyone was eager for just a moment with me. As I was signing autographs, my attention was drawn to a young girl in a wheelchair, looking at me with shining eyes. I leaned down to get closer to her and asked her name. She shyly replied that her name was Julia. She told me she had come just to meet me, that I was her hero. She confessed that she used to think living in a wheelchair would limit her, but seeing me made her believe she could fulfill her dreams too. Touched by Julia's words, I smiled warmly at her. I shared a secret with her, telling her that our greatest limitations are in our minds. I encouraged her to look at me, at everything I had achieved. It wasn't easy, I admitted, but with determination and the kind of support and love my mother gave me, anyone can go far. I told her to never let anyone tell her she couldn't do something. From a distance, I could see Lindsay watching, and I knew she felt a wave of pride washing over her. Later, as we were preparing to leave, Lindsay commented that I had become more than a champion. She said I was hope for many people. Holding Lindsay's hand, I replied that I wouldn't be here without her. I reminded her that when I barely knew how to believe in myself, she believed in me. I told her that no fame or medals were as precious as the love and support she had given me. Back at home, as we were reviewing clips from competitions and interviews, I found myself reflecting on my life. I asked Lindsay if she knew that each interview, each competition, each autograph signing was an opportunity to change perceptions. It was a chance to show the world the power of resilience and hope. I expressed my desire to use my fame to make a difference, to support other Paralympic athletes and create a more inclusive world. Moved by my words, Lindsay simply nodded. Her silence spoke volumes, filled with pride and the shared understanding of the journey we had taken together. I remember how Lindsay's words strengthened her belief that I was truly special. She told me I was already making a difference, and promised she'd always be there to support my initiative, dreams, and every step towards imagining a better world. As a famous Paralympic athlete, I had become more than just a sports hero. I was a symbol of positive change. My story was living proof that with belief, hard work, and support, nothing was unachievable, regardless of adversity. But as I was establishing myself as an inspirational figure in the Paralympic world, an unexpected shadow fell over my shining life. Lindsay, the rock in my life, began facing serious health issues. A sudden, severe illness forced her to step back from her active role at the hospital and in my life. One night, after a long day of training and commitments, I returned home to find Lindsay pale and weak in bed. The sight of my sick mother hit me like a ton of bricks. I gripped her trembling hand, trying to hide the panic in my voice as I asked her what had happened and why she hadn't told me she was feeling unwell. Lindsay attempted to calm me with a weak smile. She explained that she didn't want to worry me, knowing I had many responsibilities and that many people looked up to me as a role model. She thought she could handle it alone. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I couldn't understand how she could think that way. I reminded her that we were family, that her battles were my battles too. I promised we'd face this together, just as we always had. In the days that followed, I split my time between the hospital where Lindsay began receiving treatment and my commitments as an athlete. I dedicated each victory, each medal, to my mother, the source of my strength and inspiration. During a particularly tough hospital visit, when Lindsay looked more vulnerable than ever, I held her hand and spoke with a firm voice. I reminded her of what she told me when I was scared before my first competition, that true strength comes from the heart, and courage is facing your fears. I told her I needed her to use that strength now, that I needed her. My words touched Lindsay, and she found a new source of strength. She called me her daughter, saying I had given her purpose and a reason to fight. She promised to fight with all her might for me. For us. As Lindsay's treatment progressed, we had our good days and bad days, but our determination never wavered. Despite the worry weighing heavily on my heart, I continued my training and competitions, using the platform I built to raise awareness about Lindsay's illness and the importance of family support and love. At a major international event, I stood on the podium not just as a champion, but as a symbol of resilience and unconditional love. In the post-victory interview, with the world watching, I dedicated my medal to Lindsay. I told them this medal was for the strongest person I knew. My mother. I explained that she was fighting the toughest battle of her life, but she taught me that with love and determination, no battle is unwinnable. Support and prayers for Lindsay began pouring in from our community, fans, and even strangers around the world. In this wave of love and solidarity, something miraculous started to happen. Lindsay's health began to improve, slowly but steadily. It was a testament to the power of the human spirit and the strength of the bond between a mother and daughter. As Lindsay's medical bills skyrocketed, I faced the challenge of balancing my responsibilities as an elite athlete with my determination to provide the best possible care for my mother. In the midst of this emotional and financial turmoil, a figure from my past unexpectedly reappeared. At a crucial competition, with the stands full of fans and an atmosphere charged with anticipation, I spotted a woman in the audience who looked oddly familiar. It was Elizabeth, my biological mother who had left me behind years ago. After the competition, Elizabeth approached me. Her face showed a mix of tension and regret. She began by calling me her daughter, acknowledging that after so much time, she might not have the right to call me that. She told me she had come to watch me compete and that I was incredibly amazing. Then, with a trembling voice that betrayed her emotion and remorse, she expressed how sorry she was for everything. I was shocked, but I responded carefully yet firmly. I told Elizabeth that I didn't know what to say. I explained that I had built my life and career without her, and while it had been difficult and painful, I had people by my side who had become my true family. Elizabeth, with tears in her eyes, expressed her regret. She told me there wasn't a day she didn't regret her choices. She explained that she was young and scared, and had made a terrible mistake. She begged me to believe that her heart had been breaking all these years we were apart. She said she just wanted a chance to be part of my life in some way, even if it was from a distance, even if I never forgave her. As I listened, I felt a mix of emotions. I still harbored resentment, but I could sense the sincerity in Elizabeth's words. I told Elizabeth that I had built my life without her. The pain of her absence had taught me to be strong and to fight. But I acknowledged that people can have regrets, and I couldn't erase her from my history. Elizabeth listened, knowing that expecting a normal relationship was impossible. She assured me that she didn't expect anything, she just wanted me to know that she supported me and admired the wonderful woman I'd become. She promised to do everything she could to support all my dreams and wishes, even if from afar. I mulled over Elizabeth's words, recognizing the complexity of emotions they stirred in me. I told her I needed time to understand what her return meant to me. I explained that on top of everything else, Lindsay, my adoptive mother, was in the hospital, and I was working tirelessly to cover her ever-increasing medical bills. Elizabeth said she'd let me go, but wanted me to know she'd be there if I needed her. She mentioned she was a company executive who had moved nearby, so she wouldn't be far if I wanted to talk. The next 3 days after meeting Elizabeth were agonizing. I was struggling to raise funds for Lindsay's treatment. Despite my best efforts, the amount was overwhelmingly high, a financial mountain that seemed impossible to climb. With a heavy heart, I headed to the hospital, prepared to break the difficult news to Lindsay and find a solution together. Arriving at the hospital, the familiar environment provided a moment's comfort, but my mission there filled my chest with anxiety. I approached the reception desk, where the receptionist immediately recognized me. She greeted me with a kind smile, assuming I was there to see Lindsay. Before I could explain my visit, she continued with unexpected news. She told me Lindsay's medical bills had been fully paid and that I didn't need to worry anymore. I blinked in astonishment, my mind struggling to process her words. Confused, I asked how this was possible, explaining that I hadn't been able to raise the money yet and was there to discuss it. Noticing my confusion, the receptionist suggested I talk to Lindsay, saying she could better explain what had happened. With my heart pounding, I made my way to Lindsay's room. As I entered Lindsay's room, I found her with a serene expression and a slight smile on her lips. I told her about what the receptionist had said, my voice filled with confusion and disbelief. Lindsay took my hands in hers, her warm touch instantly calming me. She explained that Elizabeth had come to see her, and they had talked at length about everything. Lindsay shared how Elizabeth had expressed her deep regret, her appreciation for what Lindsay had done for me, and her admiration for the person I'd become. Then, to my utter amazement, Lindsay told me that Elizabeth had offered to pay for her treatment. Tears welled up in my eyes as a storm of emotions swept through me, happiness, relief, confusion, and a hint of forgiveness. I was speechless, unable to believe that Elizabeth had really done this. Lindsay confirmed it, squeezing my hand, and told me that Elizabeth had said it was the least she could do after everything. She believed this could be a step towards healing, not just for her, but for all of us. I hugged Lindsay, my tears of relief mixing with a growing smile. I expressed my gratitude for her presence in my life and my newfound appreciation for Elizabeth's actions. This moment marked a new beginning for Lindsay and me. Elizabeth's gesture had not only saved Lindsay's life, but had also opened a door to the possibility of reconciliation. After Lindsay's full recovery, we arranged a special meeting in the local park, a place filled with happy memories for us. Away from the hospital atmosphere, under the gentle shade of an old tree, the three of us gathered for a conversation that would shape our futures. Lindsay, now radiant and healthy, started the conversation by reminding me of how far we'd come. I looked at Elizabeth, acknowledging that her decision to pay for Lindsay's treatment was an unexpected act of love. I admitted that our relationship might never be like a traditional family, but I was grateful she was with us. Elizabeth, visibly moved by my cautious acceptance, responded that she hadn't expected to be accepted or forgiven. She just wanted to do the right thing for once and respected my space. She expressed her admiration for the person I'd become under Lindsay's care. Lindsay, holding both our hands, declared that our experiences had changed us all and led us to this new beginning. She reminded me of my importance in her life and promised to keep fighting for me. To Elizabeth, she acknowledged that her actions had opened the door to healing and reconciliation. The three of us embraced, a powerful symbol of forgiveness and new beginnings. From that day on, Elizabeth remained a presence in our lives, though not fully integrated. She became a supportive friend from a distance, respecting the deep bond formed in her absence. Inspired by the women who shaped my journey, I continued to shine both on the athletic track and in life. Lindsay celebrated my victories and overcome challenges as if they were her own. Elizabeth watched quietly from afar, finding peace in her redemption and the promise of a better tomorrow. And so, each in our own way, we contributed to the complex and beautiful tapestry of life, woven with threads of challenge, love, forgiveness, and hope.
If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more inspiring videos. Your engagement makes a difference and helps us continue sharing moving stories almost every day. Until next time, keep spreading positivity.